So I was demonetized before I even said anything because I used the word that starts with an S and ends with an UX, and YouTube identified that as content that is not suitable for advertisers, which is really insane to me because I mean I've seen people use that word before, and I've used that word in videos before without getting demonetized. But whatever, it's just it's all really goofy and out there. Um, the reason for the title, I'm going to explain it in a moment, but I did this stream. I don't know if it was last year, year before that. At some point, it was called "It Can Only Get Worse," and I talked about how it seems like a lot of times when you try to do things, somehow by trying to do them, it becomes more irritating or impossible. Like the reverse effect of what it's supposed to have happen. And a good example of this was on Saturday. It was either Friday night, Saturday morning, whatever. My computer started to keep pressing this slant button. So there's a button where shaped like this, but it's not one of the letters. It's one of the slants, and it was really weird because I wasn't typing anything. I would literally just sit here and it would keep pressing this button over and over. So I took the pieces of the button off, and it stopped doing it for a little bit and did it again. And then I turned the computer off, turned it back on, still doing it. And this is very problematic because if I write a script or attempt to write a script using my computer, I can't do that without this slant thing going off by itself and then me having to basically fight. And even when I was putting the title for the stream, I was having the slant thing go off again. I've never seen an issue with like this before. It's making it very difficult to really do much of anything other than, I guess, watch what somebody else does or like it doesn't bother streams usually. Although in one instance I was on here, I don't know what app I was using, but it was pressing on that button and it was making this very redundant noise. So it really does feel like something out of a cartoon, like the computer that types by itself the same button over and over again. I almost want to do a video just showing my hands like this and then, the slant thing going off. Only problem is I don't have somebody that can record it while I put my hands up because, I'd like to show proof that it's deteriorated to such a manner. Yeah, I don't really want to talk to Banana Merchant. He said his favorite character in Naruto was Hidan because he likes when people can hurt themselves and hurt others. I saw his character rankings. Yeah, this really sucks because now the only place I can write something on is my phone. What are you on about? No, I saw your ranking on bananabuyers.com. You're the only person I'm talking about that show. Everybody else just whatever. But again, this is really bad because now if I try to write a script, I have to fight the computer to, not. And I remember I was on one of my. I didn't even write this. I just had it written from about a year ago. I was looking at this script, and all of a sudden the button starts slashing down over and over. So I have to fight it while I'm trying to also preserve the original. And Google Docs has like copies of older revisions, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's always some new hassle. Man, imagine getting a computer and then like not even 3 years after getting it, it starts just typing by itself like there's a ghost. And it always presses that same button over and over. It's really lovely. I don't even like Naruto past the pain storyline. Yeah, it gets brought up a lot. Like I mentioned before the reason I don't do videos on it is because I never felt the connection with it that I felt with Dragon Ball. Like even though at the end of that with the Blue Saga, I kind of got a little disinterested. By the time you get to the Shinobi War, I was like, man, can this be over already? Like, and again, a lot of that is just because they built up a lot of the Akatsuki to be this really major organization that was going to take all the powers of Konoha to defeat, and it's like they show a lot. We mentioned this on the stream on Saturday. A lot of the members show up one time, they get a little flashback about their backstory, and then they get killed off. And it's like, well, these are the guys we've been waiting for years. You know, like just it was a lot of it was underwhelming to me. Like if you weren't Pain, Itachi, or Obito, you just really didn't get explored that much. This one guy said that you would think Conan was one of Pain's like bodies or whatever because all she did was talk about pain. Everything that came out of her mouth was about pain. There was nothing about her ever. So the Akatsuki have some of the best designs I've seen of any shonen antagonist, but they are very poorly executed for the most part, in my opinion. That was really underwhelming to know that, like, you know, Shippuden starts with Deidara, you know, getting Gara, and they're like, oh, cool. Now we're gonna like be introduced to each member one by one, and they're all gonna have these big battles and a couple of fights. Oh, this is, and then you know he shows up, and then Sasori shows up, and we get his flashback, and it's like, what in the world? And look, Banana, can you tell me if we ever see all of the Akatsuki together outside of like the openings and the little like silhouette meetings? Because I can't remember any instance in that whole series where all 10 of them were on screen together, unless it's filler. So please inform me. I can see it's gonna be one of those streams where you have like, you know, one or two people show up. Oh well. I might do a game video this week because I did record myself playing something, but I don't know if I'm gonna put it up because I can't record it in the way I'll explain it. I the screen recorder on my phone, I have to dub the footage after playing, so I'll have to put it in iMovie and then dub over it while watching it myself. I like how there's just a process to everything. Like that would be a lot easier to do than most other stuff I do that's edited, but you know, still kind of irritating. Yeah, Banana Merchant got entirely exposed. I better never see a list from him again. Now my Wi-Fi is acting up, so I'm worried that this is gonna be like those other streams where you talk for like 10 minutes for no reason because it doesn't pick up the what do you call it, the stream itself. Like it doesn't tell you that it's not picking up. It just says, oh yes, we're recording. I really wouldn't be surprised if it were acting up the way I felt. That is one of the issues with being a smaller creator because sometimes when nobody comments on your video, you're like, oh, did it not make it or did it not get uploaded? It's like, no, it's there. Nobody said anything. Oh, great. Dude, every time somebody writes something weird on here, I don't even care anymore because it's always someone you've never seen before. You know, some new character that you'll never see again after they leave they really are like what's that term, character of the day, where they show up once and never again. because that's how there was this one guy that was like on my he came to my stream and a video, and I didn't know it at the time because I was just doing a stream and like, can you stop calling women chicks? And I was like, what the hell? Because again, people on here can get to call me whatever they want. So um I ended up, like noticing, hey, this person has only ever left this comment twice on two different things. Like it's like basically spam. I'm like, what's the point of that? Like, why does me calling them this? I guess what's most obnoxious to me is the idea that people call men dudes, or some other terms that you might not be the most appealing, but demands that they refer them in such a way. Like I just think it's stupid. Whatever. Okay. Yeah, I never liked the Akatsuki weak motivations, unrelatable. Sasuke managed to be more relatable. Oh, at least we agree on him being the worst in the show. I was just asking if you remember them all being in one place at a time, because I don't. It really seems like they just like kill two, three, four of them off, and they're like, "Oh, here's another two. Here's another two." Again, I usually do like villainous organizations, so maybe I'm biased. Like Sinister Six and Justice League, um, Masters of Evil, Crime Syndicate. They were all busy getting their butts kicked by ninjas who weren't even fully trained. Pretty much everybody except Itachi. Like that's why I said those big three are the only ones that they don't do that with. Like I know you don't like Pain, but do you like Itachi and Obito? Because those really are the only ones that like Kishimoto even bothered to, like use repeatedly. This guy said Deidara should have killed Sasuke, and then we wouldn't have had to. Then instead of having the guy that wanted to destroy Konoha be the hero of the next protagonist, they could use somebody like Neji or Gaara as that would have been cool. That's the worst part about Boruto. It's like, oh yeah, all the old characters aren't doing anything anymore. It's like, except the one that I specifically don't like. They had to make sure to give him some unique roles. Like, yeah, just will never go away. Oh my god. It's like I don't know what that show's hard on is for him, but they kept him around, no matter how much it didn't make sense or went against their thing of the next generation. Nah, screw both of them. Why didn't you like Itachi? I think he's way better than his brother. I mean, it's like at least the narrative doesn't try to portray him as some hero for doing something evil. Until we're supposed to feel sorry for him, and someone mail me a box of tissues. And dude, my favorite part is how part two like basically starts with the Obito flashback, right? And then it's like supposed to be this big mystery. Who is Toby? Is he really moderate? It's like they have the exact same like spiky black hair. There was even a point where people were saying that there's no way they're the same person because they look too similar, and then they were. That's how you know Kishimoto should never try to do like a mystery story, because you made them look exactly the same in terms of their hair, and you're like, oh, I wonder who this is. Itachi literally massacred an entire clan, and their excuse for is because he really loves his little brother. Like, nah, dude, you committed genocide. Screw you. Right, but I'm saying that if you want, again, that's why I said I think part one is much stronger than part two. At no point are we ever told to empathize with Itachi. From the time that we find out about what happened to the Uchiha, you're never told, "Oh, we need to hear his side of the story." Never. That's why I was saying that I find him to be a better character because like they treat him as if he is evil, you know? They don't tell you, "Oh, we need to find Itachi and bring him back to the village." I tell you, every time I see a poll and it has like the top 10 characters and it's got Sasuke in there, I'm just like, what? Like every time I never have understood what people saw in him. He was a douchebag when he was with Naruto from the start of the series, and then he acted a little bit nicer during the tuning exams, and then he disappears until some, little mission. Then he fights Naruto again as a douchebag again. It's like, what does anybody see in this character? Oh my god! And that's what I said that like nobody else in that whole series do they stop the show for. Like, you don't see anyone else acting like that, and then we're supposed to be sympathetic toward them and aspire to get them back. Yeah, exactly. I genuinely miss villains who are just bad people for no good reason because these people actually exist in real life. Yeah, that's what one of the things I like about Dragon Ball. It has very like likable protagonists and very evil villains. Like Frieza is just evil. King Piccolo is just evil. It doesn't try to go, when King Piccolo was 3, he saw his dad get whooped by me. It's like they don't sit and hell actually Piccolo Jr. has a good motivation. You killed my dad, I'm gonna kill you. That's really you know, like it's very simple. It's not hard to understand. You know what happened. You get why like he has a specific motivation. But again, the narrative never tries to play the woe is me flashback, Crimea River stuff with any of those antagonists. Just like Cell, he just wanted to be perfect, and then he wanted to fight strong people. And even though I don't agree with them making him a genocidal monster after getting to his perfect form, you get the idea that we're never told by Toriyama to feel bad for any of these people. The only people we're supposed to empathize with are Goku and Gohan and Vegeta, and then Piccolo after he becomes good, and Krillin and the right because they're actually trying to save people. So you should feel sorry for them when something bad happens to them because they put their lives on the line to protect those that are weaker, those that can't protect themselves rather. Again, it's just a lot of I feel like with a lot of writers in more recent times, like the 2000s, 2010, they're really afraid to make villains that just are bad. Like they have to always have some motivation and it's I don't know. It just after a while, like it gets because with all the Akatsuki, they have a flashback of this happened to me and it's like okay, I get it, but like why can't somebody just be evil? Like why can't you just have a person? Because we mentioned we've seen that in real life where there are people who've never committed a crime before and they'll go out and murder somebody. That was the case with Dahmer. That was the case. I mean, whatever. You get the idea. That's why I like Toriyama more because he doesn't like he just wants to tell a story and he never felt like a villain needed to have some complex, sad backstory. And the only really out of all the villains, the only one he tries to flesh out, like give a real past to, are probably just King Piccolo and Boo because they're established as being like these very, very old deities that just do evil things. But again, no one ever gets the Crybaby flashback. Dr. Gero wants to create androids kill Goku because he's seeking revenge. At no point does Akira make you feel bad for him. All you know is that he's seeking revenge. Same thing with Piccolo Jr. I haven't seen You Love Mulattoes in a long time. I thought he went and got married or something. He said, "I don't need these men talking about chicks." You don't need a real backstory for that. You don't need a sad backstory for that. Yeah, imagine if in the Cell Saga we get a scene of Joey just at his lap. I miss my red ribbon buddies. And we got all these flashbacks of him hanging out with different guys at the Red Ribbon headquarters, and then they go outside and Goku just blows all them. Oh my god. I do kind of wish that Jiro had stuck around longer because I did want to see what his views were. Like if he would act like we never really know if he wanted to take over the world like Cell seemingly did where he was going to blow it up, or if he just wanted to kill, Goku and that would be the end of it, like just go and retire. So that's the kind of stuff that does suck from him not lasting as long as he was originally intended. Because we don't really get to like go into his and again, this isn't about like making him sympathetic, but just kind of seeing what ways does he differ from like Frieza and other antagonists. Is he just this homicidal maniac that wants to kill everybody? Because we did kind of see that a little bit with them attacking Yamcha. But again, it's like, would he just go around killing people if he was able to defeat, Goku and the Z fighters? Never really gets explored. I mean, I guess a little bit with 17 and 18 because they don't go around just killing people randomly, but you get my point that I do kind of wish they kept him around longer so we could see what he felt about, what he wanted to do. It's not even just, it's not trying to make him sympathetic, but more so flesh out his character, like give him some, understanding of what he believes and what he wants to do beyond just killing this person, like what his objective really is. In fact, I'd argue that's why Dragon Ball villains will always be my favorite. They are who they are, and there's no need for a crybaby justification for why they're evil. Yeah, you have some really good designs, some in some cases unique powers, backstories that tie into another character or the lore. It's really sad that I think the one thing Kishimoto got from Toriyama is just killing off, like some interesting villain right after they show up. Dude, imagine if Jiro didn't get killed by 17, and instead he like shows up in like he just is a head, right? And he shows up in Super with like a new, more powerful body, and he's trying to make his own Red Ribbon Army just filled with androids now to get revenge. Like, wouldn't that be organic storytelling where you had a villain who didn't succeed the first time around and that, like led up to Cell being created and taken over as the main villain, and then they come back and now they have this grander plan to just completely do away with all of you. Didn't Jiro get traumatized by Goku and then his sole purpose because Goku disrupted his plans, destroys creations? No, we just know that he was angry at him for destroying the Red Ribbon Army. Like Jiro is a character that was made in Z that was retconned into being part of the Red Ribbon Army. Like he wasn't in the original series. They just used that as organic storytelling to connect that arc with Cell. If you really think about it, it's like all the stuff after Red Ribbon kind of ties together. Like the is the 21st Budokai, the one where Tien is first introduced, like that leads into the King Piccolo saga, which, the way that ends leads into the Piccolo Junior saga. And then, that sort of leads into Z because the ending of that goes directly into Saiyan saga. And then the final battle of Saiyan saga goes to Free. It's only the Cell stuff that is like, screw all of these last 5 arcs. Let's go back to Red Ribbon and like tie like that was what I thought was really interesting. Just how it's like these continuous arcs that build off of each other, and then these two that are like so far apart. And a lot of people to this day still haven't even seen Red Ribbon, which is ridiculous, but whatever. Tied together, like I thought that was interesting. Because their action says all actions speak louder than words. Writers today need to understand that. They did point that Jiro created little fly drones to record and take. Yeah, but I'm saying that wasn't revealed until the Cell saga. So I'm saying that as far as the viewer was aware, the Red Ribbon Army was just done. And, they went on to fighting other people. And then only after Trunks shows up in the 3-year time skip do we find out that, oh yeah, one of those guys survived and he's been recording all this different stuff. Which, by the way, it still doesn't make sense to me. If you record him for that long, why can't any of the androids use the Kamehameha? You ever notice that? It's like I recorded him between for like for all these years, but I never was able to master his ability. They use this over and over again. Hell, they saw the spirit bomb too, is what was crazy to me. They did point that Zero created Little Fly Drone. Imagine that's actually their name, Little Fly Drones. They just go around just observing. Look at me, I'm a fly. I'm going around and looking at you. Yeah, you love Mulatto. Just he showed up, said hello. He had his little cameo, and he went out the door. But yeah, I gave my explanation for why I will never make Naruto videos. Jiro turned himself into an android just to live long enough to continue his work. Yeah, aren't androids supposed to adapt as they fight? They're the perfect counter to any Saiyan. Well, see, that's what kind of like how to explain it. I really wish we had more fights with seven. Like I wish they had lasted longer than they did. I know 18 sticks around, but they don't do anything with her until the Tournament of Power and the Super 17 arc, which he's still only in like 2 episodes of that. But I really would have liked to have seen more of 17 and 18 before the tournament, because it's like you give 17 one full fight with Piccolo, and before that he's part of like a double team battle. And we don't really get to see like do they have any of their techniques, because they were created in that time period, or rather they were turned into androids during the time period of all these different fights of Goku with King Piccolo and Piccolo Jr. and Vegeta. So yeah, it would have been cool if they actually showed off moves and were adapting really quickly. Because one of the things that was established during the original Dragon Ball is that a talented martial artist can learn a move after seeing it one time. So like, you know, Roshi shows Goku the Kamehameha, he learns how to do it one time. Boo sees Goku use the Kamehameha wave, he learns how to do it. So it's like they really did kind of just I think forget about that for the android. I don't know. Z has a lot of like little continuity stuff I don't get. Like again, I have my problems with Naruto, but it makes sure to like have legacies of characters still prevail. Like Kimimaru gets killed off in part one, but he still gets mentioned in part two. Like 16 doesn't get mentioned at all in anything after the Cell Saga. Like he just never existed, which really does suck because I like that character. It is. People just are crazy. Cell's the only one advanced enough to use the Kamehameha. Yeah, man, everybody knows how to use that move. Everybody except the androids, Frieza, Vegeta, and Piccolo. I'm gonna make the 90th Buu Saga rewrite. So that's why that voice actor thing sucks so much, because I would definitely use it was weird. Super has Trunks use the Gallic gun, and it's like you have a 20 episode arc, and you can't devote 5 minutes to show him being taught that by Vegeta. It just comes out of nowhere, just like that stupid form that he had, the one where it's like blue aura on Super Saiyan with his eyes not being. What the hell? I told you that show is just so random and didn't explain anything, and stuff just comes out of nowhere. 17, who was weaker than first form Cell and stalemated by Pick. Yes, that's why I said that when people tell you this character is too weak, don't believe them. Because when they brought 17 back, they showed they will make a character ascend beyond ridiculous feats just to use them. Like no explanation given, no build up, nothing. Like tomorrow, Toyotaro could just decide Piccolo's stronger than Ultra Instinct in base form. That's why I don't get caught up on power levels and All because it's like the writer that doesn't care. They just make whoever stronger that they want. I mean, look at Goten and Trunks. Oh, becoming a Super Saiyan requires you to have a feeling, a need rather than a want, and you have to have something bad happen to you, and then oh, here's these two little goofy kids that have the form so young they can't even remember when they first got it. Hey, remember the which fusion is that? The Patara fusion. When you fuse with someone, you can't unfuse. So you have to make sure that you really want to do this and make this sacrifice. And then Super, oh, well, it turns out you actually can unfuse if you're not a Kaioshin. So now there's no difference between that fusion and the other fusion except a stupid dance or some earrings. But 17 can't absorb energy. So how did he get stronger after the cell? Yeah, I mean, look, again, I'm not going to, don't ask me to defend the logic of Super. I've criticized that show more times than I can count. You know what's sad though? They could have easily just done what they did with 17 with 18. Like they could have had her train with Beerus because she meets him, at the same time that Goku does at that party. They could have had her, participate in the Goku Black, and like they could have actively built her up as getting stronger by virtue of fighting these tougher opponents, even if she doesn't beat them, and then that could culminate in her winning the Tournament of Power. But Dragon Ball doesn't exactly like women to be strong, so it is what it is. Good old shonen. Let's bring back her brother that we didn't use for 20 years instead. That's how you know that Super was like just written episode by episode. Like they just come up with stuff as they go along. Because the Goku Black arc literally has nothing to do with the tournaments, other than that one moment where the god of Universe 10 is talking to Gowasu about like Zamasu or something like that. So like that one little scene is the only thing. Like you could completely skip the stuff with Black and you would miss nothing because it has no bearing on the story. Dude, with Z, everything connects. Like trying to watch the Boo saga after only seeing the Frieza saga is a joke. So much stuff happens during that. Trying to watch the Frieza saga without seeing the Saiyan saga is a joke too. Because it's like, why are they on Namek then? Just that's why I said with Super, it really feels like that show had no, like they just said we're gonna make a new Dragon Ball show and they just came up with stuff with each new episode. Like they didn't even care about anything organic occurring. Which really is a shame because they have a lot of really good characters at their disposal and they just waste them and don't do anything with them for the most part, except a certain Saiyan duo that I'm sick of. Did you read the new chapter of Super? Yeah, I did. Vegeta's gonna lose again like he did against Moro. Sorry for spoiling that. No, this time he might win. Yeah. They have this one meme on Twitter where it's Vegeta doing this when he's about to fight. It's Cell, Beerus, and then somebody like three or four different opponents, and then he just gets beat by. I was like, you really like this redundant? Like, if I wrote Dragon Ball, even if I didn't want Vegeta to beat the main antagonist, I wouldn't have him just show up to get smashed. That's why I said Toyotaro is such a he doesn't know what he's doing, whatever. Like people cry about his art. I'm upset about the story because I'm not an art critic. And even if 17 became Super 17, he still wouldn't be strong enough to defeat 18 or Super Saiyan Goku. Dude, I don't know what's wrong with the writers of that show. I really don't, because all they had to do to have an android be like on the level of Blue was just start that idea from when Beerus showed up. All they had to do was just have 18 train with him, or if they want to use 17, whatever. But like, this Dragon Ball had, between the Cell Saga and the Tournament of Power, they had no interest in that character. That's why it was so weird. They were like, "Oh, let's bring him back and give him this big role," out of nowhere. And they have him in the Moro arc, and he just gets smashed up over there too. BoJack, Android 13, Broly, Janemba, Vegeta couldn't beat. Dude, this guy killed his so he wanted to talk to some woman on the internet that cost thousands to talk to because he thought she was in love with him because people that love you make you spend thousands to talk to them. That's totally how that works. So he killed his mother, his dad, and his brother, and then he wiped off his dead dad's finger to access his bank account to talk to this broad after killing his own father. And when they were doing the court proceeding, I think it was the prosecutor was like, so you want me to believe that this assailant materialized across the room, because he's talking about how you can't get people to reasonably believe that you don't have any like tracks of this person walking, but then they showed up over here and they were over there. Remember how Janemba can like make parts of his body come off? Remember material like he made the killer sound like Janemba. Like he kills one person, then he materializes on the side of the room and gets the next one and he materializes again. That's why when you brought Janemba up, that's what that reminded me of. Just just the way the prosecutor worded it, like, you want me to believe that this assailant materialized across the room? I could just picture some guy in like a black what do you call it, like hockey mask and just black clothes, or like just pieces of him are crumbling off as he goes across the room. Oh my god. I keep just imagining like a police sketch of the suspect and it looks just like Janemba. Like it's like like a live action Dragon Ball. I know that case isn't funny, but that's just what that reminded me of. Despite the fact that Vegeta trained harder than any other character, he gets clapped by every single villain in the show, and it's so dumb. Well, so that's why I said, why spend so much time on a character who you're not going to have? Like, what is the message of that? That training and hard work doesn't matter? I guess so. Yeah. Wow. He typed that right as I said it, but it's like the moral arc really pissed me off more than the other ones because, like with Super, they might spend one episode training. They might have Vegeta in every episode, but he's not trained. Like you don't see him really doing that much. The moral arc spent a very weird amount of time on that character learning abilities. And I'm like, no other arc has, like in the Frieza saga, you don't see Vegeta train. In a Cell saga, you get a couple of chapters of him training with Trunks, but it's like the moral arc really focused on that character training, and then it was just for him to get clapped. Like he gets a little cool fight, and then Moro gets a new form with the villain that's more interesting than him, in my opinion, and then slaps Vegeta away. It was really underwhelming. And then he gets to do some stupid group move, and then people are like, "Oh, see, his training mattered. It's like, man, get out of here." Dude, Vegeta helping Gohan against Cell was way better for his character than that, because at least that was specifically him, throwing his beam and distracting Cell instead of, oh, I'm gonna get 5 or 6 other people's energy together. Dude, the only character the moral arc handled like a little bit decent was Piccolo. Everybody else, like, you had a very bland villain. You have Goku and Vegeta get smacked up over and over again, making them look weak as hell. I couldn't get excited for that story, and that's why every time people were like, "Oh my god, look at Ultra," it's like it's the same thing as before. It shows up, it loses, and then they have to use some other move. Like people really like this. I don't get it. Just like they have some new form that Vegeta just obtained. It's like, if it doesn't beat the villain, who, like, imagine if Super Saiyan showed up against Frieza and then Frieza still beat Goku. Like, nobody would care about that form. Transformations just for toys, not for storytelling. They show that training and hard work doesn't matter. Why show him training if he's just going to get beat up? The Piccolo versus 17 fight was so cool because even though Piccolo didn't technically beat 17, he wasn't getting beat up either. Like, it was very evenly matched. Like, that's why a lot of people say it's one of the best fights of the show, because it's not It doesn't have a predetermined winner, and it really feels like it go either way. And you see this like gradual increase in Piccolo's strength from the last time he fought him, like briefly during the Vegeta 18 fight. So you don't have to have somebody win to just to not have them embarrassed during a fight. They clearly believe in the ideas of inherited power. Now they clearly believe in sucking off the same character over and over. Like if I had my way, I would have had Vegeta beat Moro, um, probably with like maybe Piccolo helping them or something, because they gave Piccolo a lot to do in that arc they didn't do for the other ones. I probably would have had 18 win the tournament just because they haven't done anything with her at all, even as she's been a supporting character in all these different arcs. I would have done what I just described earlier about like, you build up to it with her training with Beerus and then with these other people. Um, I probably would have had Trunks and Vegeta together destroy Black. Like that merge Zamasu thing can get erased. Have Goku stick him in the Mafuba, as evidenced by how hard the writers suck off villains. Dude, Black is so like, I know you don't like him, Banana, but just when he showed up, people were really wondering who that was. And there was like an air of mystery. He was intimidating. And then you reveal that he's like a time paradox. Because I already explained why it's his origins don't make any sense to me. But then it's like you also have him partner up with himself from another dimension. And even though he's supposed to be the stronger one, you basically turn them into Goten and Trunks, where they're like, acting like they're evenly matched and all the rest. And it's like, what the? And then you end the arc by having them fuse into this ugly, weird, half face melting thing. Oh my god! So I said that show is so irritating. Like it'll come up with a good idea and then just completely soil it. Like, hey, there's an evil version of Goku running around. We're not going to have him interact with Goku's best friend or his sons, except kill one of them in that timeline that he went and stole his body from in a flashback. It's like, no, we're not going to do any of that. We're just going to have him sit in the future at all times. That's actually the arc probably with the least, like that arc and the Universe 6 tournament have the least amount of stakes I've ever seen. Like, oh no, if Black succeeds, he'll destroy a timeline that's already had most of its inhabitants wiped off the face of the earth that we don't even care about except for like two people. Oh no, if Universe 7 loses to Universe 6, they're gonna get their Earth transferred to another universe where all the characters that we actually care about live on that planet anyway. Dude, you could literally make like universe, like basically having Goku lose to Hit or Hit win that tournament would have made no difference because they don't do anything on those other planets anyway. How hard the writers. I'm just imagining them was like, oh, Frieza, come back for the fifth time, please. Dude, I still don't understand why we can't see any villain come back, like other than for like they won't bring back Cell. If they use Boo, they're using the fat one, they're putting him to sleep over and over. I tell you, these writers are just a complete joke, man. They are insane. And it sucks because like even if some of the villains I don't think are that interesting, it's like I'd love to see the Ginyu Force again, like under Frieza or doing something independent of him. Because they actually have, very distinct personalities and color schemes, and they're memorable, even if they're not in the story that much. So it sucks that there's this like really weird push to not have any villain that's not Frieza show up again. He was like, explain to me how 17 got that. I don't know. I really don't know. Like in the story, they don't give any explanation. So yeah, it looks like Banana Merchant got tired out. He went to sleep. He took his morning nap. I guess afternoon nap. It just turned afternoon a few minutes ago. Ugh. Man, it looks like I might end up having to make another Jimmy Jank video because they're arguing on Twitter again. They've been arguing for the last 2 days on there. The video is gonna be me reading their tweets. It's like on July 31st, this person tweeted, and then I read it, and then the other person's response is back and forth. They're really oh, and then Majority Report made a video about Jimmy where they were talking about him being misogynist because he criticized multiple women, even though he didn't say anything about them being women as one of his critiques. So it is. They always use the gender shield when it's one of their friends. Women can criticize multiple men and nobody calls them sexist, but if you criticize multiple women, you're sexist. Funny how that works, huh? Like I said, the only people that really believe that stuff already didn't like him. So it's not. It's funny how like you get to a certain point when you're, I guess, famous or popular or well known, where even if people say things about you that you would think are bad, or they're not really like damaging you at all because the only people that believe them already didn't like you. It's like the people who were saying they weren't going to watch. What's the name of that movie? There's a movie that people are like trying to boycott. And it's like, well, how do we know you were going to watch it anyway? Or when I have people who say they're unsubscribing from me and then you've like never seen them before. It's like they make themselves not matter. I already hated this person, but me not believing them makes me even more hateful of them, even though I already didn't like them. So there's really no difference. But I don't like them. Okay. No, they kill me with that. They always like it's always someone you've never seen before that is trying to play the "I'm quitting you" game. Give me a second. Somebody's calling me. Right, that was a person that was trying to talk to me about some stuff. I mentioned to them the computer saga. I will try to write that script even if I have to use my phone. It's just it's irritating when like it takes longer to write something by typing it with your fingers or thumbs. So I'll try to do it this week. I'm not going to make any promises though because I will be slower due to not having a keyboard. I'm telling you, I feel like the boy who cried wolf with some of this stuff. Like, first you can't make something because there's like little space on the computer. Then you can't make something because somebody won't read a piece of paper. Like, there's always some issue, and it sucks because you actively try to fight against it. You go and you try to fix the thing, and when you're doing stuff with other people, you make accommodations to benefit them, and they still are just like whatever. Still not going to record anything. Like I was reading Uncanny X-Men last night. I was on. I got to issue 17 because I'm just going through the whole series at this point. Um, I read what I believe is the first appearance of the Sentinels because you see them get made for the I guess first time, and I was surprised that it was a 3-issue story because a lot of people like to say American comics don't have ongoing plots. They like to criticize older ones especially for that, but they do. They just aren't. They're just not that long, and they usually because the way those books typically work is that they're available for people to just pick up whenever they want. Like if you didn't read issue 1, you don't have to read that to read issue 15. But yeah, it was a 3-part story where I think it's Trask is his name makes the Sentinels as a way to like ward off mutants, and one by one the 5 members are each defeated, and Professor X has to rescue them, and they finally take it out alongside Trask making like he has a it's crazy how in these like 3 not chapters issues you say chapters if you keep reading mangas. He has this character arc of like hating mutants to like realizing that what he made to stop to put a stop to the people that he hates are even worse because now they're trying to enslave humanity. I'm still waiting for Magneto to come back. He went with there's some antagonist called the Stranger. He teleported him and towed away to some space several issues ago. I know he's eventually going to come back. I'm just wondering when. But yeah, I actually would make a very strong argument that the X-Men probably have the best like collection of villains outside of like of any Marvel property besides Spider-Man. Like you got the Sentinels, you have the obviously Magneto, Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister. There's a whole bunch. Omega Red. So I'll keep on trucking through it. I don't know, just it feels nice to just see where a lot of that stuff came from. Because I really want to get to the Claremont era. Because I haven't read a bunch like the stuff with him in years, other than the Dark Phoenix saga. So it'll be really exciting to get to that. I did have an idea for another Dragon Ball video, but I just want to do that next romance one, and then I'll try to like put more into it after that. Oh, yeah, I feel like my arm was gonna break off. Sometimes just stuff is so tense and tight and all the rest of that. No, I didn't even know Banana didn't like Itachi and Obito. Again, there's only one character from Naruto I don't like, and it starts with an S and ends with an Asuke. I really would like make a whole 2-hour video just explaining why he's the worst character ever made in any story of all time. Because even if there's a character I don't really like or find annoying, they don't like people are saying, "Oh, I don't like Danzo. That's his character from the Leaf Village." It's like he's in what 10 chapters. He's mentioned in what 2 arcs. Like he's really not that big of a deal. Like I've never seen a character whose name is not the title of a story suck up this much interest on top of everybody else. It's really insane. And I guess maybe because I noticed that Kishimoto is with with panels, and this isn't something you really notice in the show, but more so with the manga. He doesn't have what's a good way of saying it? Like on average, it seems that his panels are like much larger, so you don't really get as much character work in one chapter that you would for like Dragon Ball or something. I just thought Obito was bland. I mean, hey, we'll just have to agree to disagree. I prefer him over Pain because they're not telling me to feel sorry for him. At least not to such an extent. I think they did a better job with him than most of the other villains in that show. His whole motivation was driven by the death of one person. Well, couldn't you say the same thing for Itachi, where like his whole motivation is driven for the life of one person? Like he kills his whole family just so he can spare Sasuke. And if you think about it, you could say the same thing about who's the other one? About Neji, where his dad died, and then that's what caused him to be resentful toward the the upper chamber of the Hyuga clan. Like there's a lot of characters where like one person dies and then it's their whole motivation. You could say the same thing about Spider-Man. Uncle Ben died. Now he wants to be a hero and saving all these other people to make up for his one loss. You could say the same. No, I'm not. You get the point. It just goes onward and onward. Where's that one person that died and that's their motivation? Well, that's two people. That's why I was gonna mention him, but I was like, yeah, that doesn't go with the one person thing. Like I just specifically used examples of one person that died, and then they have their motivation. What's her name? There's a chick that Ben Riley dates, and then we find out she's the daughter of the robber that killed Uncle Ben. So like with her, she's the same thing. Where her motivation is one person died, so that's what drives her. I forgot her name, but that's something else that has never been made into any of the adaptations. So Amazing Spider-Man 200 is one of my favorite issues of all time when he fights the burglar and he doesn't have his powers and he just throws him around. It was great. These superheroes should get therapy. I mean, I guess, but the thing is with a lot of older comics like the ones from the 60s and 70s and I guess to an extent the 80s, they don't really dwell too much on these people. Like they'll say, "Oh, I miss this person," but it's not really an angsty thing. Like it's just a sad thing that happened in their past, and they're like still upbeat and cheerful. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that motivation. It's just how you write it. I like how whatever man decided to finally show up. We've all been sitting here for almost an hour waiting for him to pop up after he won that poll of the top 10 subscribers of the channel. We were all waiting with bated breath for him to show up. Who else is like that? I was trying to think of somebody else that has that same backstory. Yeah, it'll come to me at some other point. That was funny, like seeing people that had never even heard of, had never like picked up a comic, be told about the story for Infinity Gauntlet, and they're like, "So Thanos wants to destroy half of the world, half of the universe for a woman?" And I thought it was funny because it's like, well, I mean, it's not as I'd say compelling as Infinity War, but it's still a motivation. Like it's still not just, I'm doing this just for the hell of it. Imagine wanting to kill half the universe for a broad in the black cloak. She looks like a gender bent Grim Reaper, and you're like, yeah, I'll do anything for you, Mistress Death. You want me to kill everybody? Okay. But I think Kishimoto wrapped his character up pretty well. Whose character, Obito? I just don't like how they kill off. Like, if you're a villain, you need to just say sign your last will and testament tomorrow. Like, I don't like that because I don't feel like life is realistic in that sense. Like when you just start killing off characters over and over and over, it feels more like you're being edgy than actually trying to tell a good story. Like with the Boo Saga, where they kill off the whole cast except for like what, two people. It's like that's just Toriyama being edgy. Let's have a villain that blows up Earth. So if you don't get out of here with that, same thing with the ending for the Goku Black arc. It's like, oh, let's have an antagonist that destroys this entire timeline and makes the whole arc a complete failure for the heroes. Who did Wolverine dirty? The movies, the comics, what? Where was he done dirty at? I didn't like that they killed him off for a couple of years with that whole Death of Wolverine story. It's like why do we need his clone? And then they had X-23 take his identity. It's like, first of all, you made a woman succeed a man in his title, so people are gonna start calling it SJW in 2 seconds. But it's like I liked her because she was trying to be her own person, so why should she take whatever? I just don't like that passing down the mantle stuff that much anymore. Like it's really lame. Yeah, I didn't like his death. Like the only character Marvel killed off and it actually was done well was Jean because that was built up for a while. And it was actually intended to be the end of that character, you know. But all these other deaths are just for publicity, and you know they're gonna bring him back eventually anyway. Like that's one of the reasons I don't like Dan Slott. He killed off Flash. It's like one of the best supporting characters in all of comics. You're gonna murder just so you can bring him back in a couple of years, which are edgy behind. Same thing with Ultimatum. It's like let's make this universe with all these different types of incarnations of pre-existing characters. We can tell our own story, and then let's have when we want to get rid of that label, instead of just giving them a peaceful, happy ending, let's have Magneto destroy everybody except like 10 superheroes and have them all die in these horrible ways that aren't focused on. I was like, what is this? Like that's one of the worst comics I've ever seen. Like I want to buy a copy of that to use as toilet paper. Like you get how insane the people at Marvel are when they think that we can't just have an ending where people live happily ever after. So we have to have everyone die horribly because a villain rage quits the world. I'll never forget that one time I was talking to that guy on Discord and I was playing a ROM of this. I'm not going to say what game it is because I don't. It's terrible. You have one life, you get hit, you die. It's not Contra, it's someone else. Um, and I'm playing it, and I lose all my lives, and it goes to game over. The game over screen, I turn it off, and he's like, "Yeah, man, if someone else was here, they might say you're rage quitting." I'm like, "What?" Because rage quitting is the act of someone playing online and then disconnecting or turn the game off after it appears they're going to lose or when they're losing so that they can like spare themselves seeing themselves lose. I turn off a game after going to the game over screen after losing all of like I like by that logic I'm supposed to play it forever. Like I'm playing a ROM and I lose all my lives. And I turn it off after I've lost all of my lives and I hit the game over screen. And he's like, "You're someone else would describe this as rage quitting." Well, that person's description is very inaccurate. I was like, "What?" So I'm supposed to play this forever? Like you can never quit the game. Oh my god. Yeah, play that game forever. Someone else would describe this as rage quitting. To play a ROM by yourself and then turn it off after you've lost all of your life. Apparently, but it's like you how do you compare a term that means shutting a game off when you're playing online with other people to playing a game on a like playing a ROM by yourself and turning it off after you've lost all of your life? No, that is insane. I mean, I guess I'm supposed to wait until we get back to the title screen and just play forever. I just always thought that was one of the goofiest things somebody said on Discord. And that website is the grand champion for ridiculous things being written, like that site and Twitter. I can't tell which is well. I already said I think Discord's worse, but whatever. Because Discord's the only website I've seen where people are like, I'm gonna screenshot what these nobodies are writing, and then I'm gonna make a video exposing them. And then my subscribers are like, who the hell is that? Like people make exposed videos on someone who like if they have a channel, they don't even have 100 subscribers. Um, and it's like it's just so like jarring, you know, like you're overstating this person's significance. I exposed you. Oh man, I didn't even see Banana's comment, but whole fight was Kakashi realizing that he couldn't um save him, and the only way to put him out of his misery. We got his backstory, but it wasn't used to justify his behavior in that fight with Kakashi was, and because he had to kill his friend who went off the deep end. I remember it was about maybe last year I was trying to do a video on like what bringing Cell back would look like if they actually did it in a way that wasn't what I think they would do, which is just ruin him and have it'd be another win for Goku. Um, like I said, I think writers, especially ones in Japan, they have this like thing about finality and like they sometimes don't want to accept the idea that maybe it's better to keep a villain around than make a new one because the one that you make afterward is going to suck compared to one you already have. Yeah, I forgot its name. Piscord. Thanks for reminding me. But just like for example, you know, I'd rather see Cell come back than they make a new villain that absorbs people like they did with Moro. Because it's like, why can't I have a villain who has a pre-established reason to not like the protagonist, than some new person that just hates them to hate them, like that's why I said that I really don't like certain people in the I don't even want to call it the Dragon Ball community, but just like people who like a lot of the stuff I like, they say things that let's go to say I don't think make much sense. And that's why I don't really talk to them about it. Cause I guess when you see people who just talk about transformations and how is this person strong compared to this, I don't care, and like the stuff I do care about, which is are they using this character right? Is this interesting? They don't really seem to have much of a stock in. So it's my biggest issue with them. Ugh. Yeah, Discord is pretty terrible. It's the only website I've seen where people can just like they will argue with you over anything. Like I know this one guy, he went to a server with a picture of from some movie, right? It's like a guy's face, and they're like, "You need to change your avatar." And I'm just thinking to myself, who The hell do they think they are? They're gonna dictate to you what your avatar is in their server. And I already talked about my experiences on there in another stream, so I'm not gonna regurgitate too much of that. But I just thought that was funny. It's like this is my avatar that I use in every server, and yours is the only one where it's like we're gonna decide what your picture. It's like you better believe somebody told me that I would step right out of that server. It really doesn't take much to impress Dragon Ball fans. That's why they obsess over power levels and transformations. Dude, my show wouldn't be anything like what they like. Like there'd be no, because I said before it would be set in that year between when they leave Namek and when Goku shows up. Like after Trunks kills Frieza and the rest of that. There'd be no forms other than maybe some for the villains, but even that would be rare. Um, and any one can defeat the villain if they train hard enough. It wouldn't be the Goku show. No, they're really ridiculous to me. Just the stuff that they're interested in and care about. Like, oh, we're gonna see Broly show up again so that we can still not explain how a guy that never trained a day in his life is strong and like I didn't even like the premise for the original Broly movie, and this one's even worse because they made him even stronger with even less logic. Like this guy that never trained can fight the gods. Like what? Dude, all they had to do was just like have him not be that as strong. Like just it's I don't get them at all. I don't interact with people on Discord. Yeah, I'm not in anybody's server other than my own, which only has one person in there. That site made me just say to hell with interact because like again, you send somebody a private message on Twitter, they say hello back. Usually, if it's someone that you follow and whatever, you send somebody a private message on Discord. If it's a woman, they'll accuse you of trying to flirt with her, even though nothing you said is romantic at all. And if it's another guy, they like get offended at the act of. I mean, if you saw some of the like ways those people acted on there, it was crazy. Like they like no other website do you try to like just speak to people and they get that angry or upset or try to like malform it into something. And I'm like, this is like that's how you know it's Piscord because I go on these other like I remember when YouTube used to have private messages. I would send people, private messages and they would sometimes respond, sometimes it would depend on how big they were, but it's like no one else acts this way on any other website I've been on. It's only Piscord. Like Twitter, people write ridiculous things, but like if you interact with people in a respectable way and just ask them how they're doing on these other sites, they don't act this way. It's only on that one. You ask a woman what her interests are, and she's gonna try to say that that she's so uncomfortable and disturbed. People ask me that. I didn't try to make it into a Me Too thing. I didn't say I felt so disturbed and depressed in my crevices and all the rest of it. Broly has special powers, so he's different from other Saiyans. I told you that I don't. That was the most overrated film I've ever seen. Like people were praising that thing as if it was the holy grail, and I'm like, it's just a transformation fest. Like I don't whatever people they were so look at how good the anime. But that's another thing that they're like it's power levels, transformations, and animation. This wasn't drawn in Shintani style. Like I don't care. I just want a good story. You ain't gotta sit there like when I used to watch Z or GT or the original. Like you really think I sat there and was like, I wonder who the animator on this episode is. I didn't care. I'll sit here crying about what someone looks like. Whatever. He's a legendary Super Saiyan, so that makes him special. Dude, they had in Raging Blast 2, they had Super Saiyan 3 Broly, and for some reason they made it look like the legendary, and it's like, yeah, I know that's the most iconic look for him, but it doesn't make any sense because his Super Saiyan 3 should look like his Super Saiyan, which is just his base form with gold hair. Like, you know what I'm saying? They made it like now people are wondering if that's a new form that was made for the show Legendary Super Saiyan 3. It was the same thing with him in Super Saiyan 4. It's like, why do they keep making him look the way he does in the legendary form when these are not whatever? They just make their own stuff more confusing. Oh my god. They never really explain why the C type Super Saiyan is legendary. Yeah, they don't really. I don't know. Super Saiyan after the Cell saga just to me a lot of the forms that are introduced don't have much of an impact because they're usually just replaced by something else that gets replaced by like other than Super Saiyan 4 and GT, they don't really have any special role or lasting impact on the story. So, uh, I'm just tired of these forms. So yeah, there's a form for every arc of Super. Let's count them. You got Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, blue hair, whatever. Super Saiyan Rose, Ultra Instinct, whatever the hell that form Vegeta now has is. Um, the one that Trunks was using for that 2 or 3 episodes where he was had the blue aura. It's like, can you get rid of these? Like, why can't they just tell a good story? You really can't tell a good story without somebody's hair changing colors. And then with the manga, every month you wait for 40 pages of trash. You're like, oh man, I can't wait for this new chapter where it's the exact same. Like they had this one chapter in the Granola arc where it's Goku, Vegeta, Beerus, and Whis on their little, and I'm like, this is something I could have seen in chapter 2. Like there's there's no difference. It just stays the same. Oh my god! And then people are like crapping themselves over that movie. Oh, I wonder who's going to be the hero. I'm so excited. No, that's BS. There was story in DBZ. No, I have to disagree with that entirely. First of all, you don't even have any of these forms until the end of the Frieza saga. After Super Saiyan has been built up the entire arc. No, you want to talk about animated fights? Go to the Boo saga onward. That's when you start getting this. With all these different hair colors, you'll figure out they'd run out of hair dye. Hey, that's why this one guy said next one is Super Saiyan Orange. No, it's gonna be Super Saiyan Tan. It's gonna be SST. Imagine if we find out that's like a form that's not even just Super Saiyans. Like everybody's hair turns orange, like from the Turtle Hermit School. That's their ascended power. I remember on online for so long, people used to have that drawing of Super Saiyan 5 from AF. Well, no, I was saying that in Z, you didn't have just animated fights. There was a whole story up until the Boo saga, which I gave examples of earlier. I was saying I remember online for so long with AF, they had this whole story about so DBZ is just like WWE. I mean, people use a lot of terms they like for that, like, oh, this character gets bodied by this person, or oh, they have to job to that person. Now, I think people retroactively try to trash Z to make it look like Super, but it's still way better than this. But it is what it is. I was saying I remember for Super Saiyan 5 that form with the gray hair that was on the internet for so long. It's like imagine if this actually existed where it's like some weird old man looking ghost. Like what the hell? Does anybody remember that where it's like the gray hair thing with the gray chest and then like the like he was wearing like a blue version of his gi? You're like, what is this? Oh, you can take that. I've never seen BDZ either. I don't know what Brandon's saying no to. We got about 9 more minutes, and I'm gonna go do something after this. Always try to push for an hour and a half. Yeah, for years people going, "Oh, Dragon Ball AF, Dragon Ball AF," and if you're like, "No, Dragon Ball's over, no more shows," and then they did the stupid live action movie, and then they redid Z with Kai, and then then Battle of Gods came out. Yeah, I remember with AF, they used to have episode titles, and then people were making videos with Toyotaro's fan manga thing. I'm like, man. And then I'm not even gonna talk about Dragon Ball Multiverse. That you want to talk about show stuff that needs to end? It's like I've never seen somebody make like a fan version of another person's official thing that lasted that long. Like I don't even think TFS lasted that long. They were around for 10 years. Like Multiverse has been around since like 2007 or 8. It's like, and I still don't know when it's going to end because they do chapters where it's not even like progressing in the tournament. It's just backstory. Live action from cartoons are the worst. Yeah, I don't know why they bought because it's like they never tell an original story. And every time they retell something, it always is worse than what we saw. Like, why not just watch the first season of Avatar instead of watching a stupid movie that tries to condense 5 or 6 hours of TV into two? That's why I said I don't understand like how anyone looked at that film and was like, "This is a good idea. Let's do it. Let's make a live action version of whatever." You get my point that it's like it's always a retelling, and the retelling is always some really condensed, crappier version of the story we got. So to me, it seems like a waste of time. And usually, there's always some casting controversy. Like I remember when Evolution was first coming out, people were like Piccolo's ears aren't pointy enough, and he's not green. And then when they did the when the last Airbender was like first getting revealed, why are these characters being played by white people? It's like just see stuff like that you can avoid because like in a cartoon nobody cares if well I can't say that now because of what the Simpsons did, but like nobody would used to care if a white person voiced a black person, or vice versa. Derivative. I told you that the last Airbender was going to have a season 4, and then they decided to spend time on that movie. So instead of a potentially fourth good or great season of that show that had like new ideas explored and more development for the characters, we get a movie that retells the first season that is hated by all. Dude, the last Airbender got screwed over by Nickelodeon so much. Like they wanted 4 seasons, and only when they got to the third one where they were like, "All right, third one's the last one, guys," and then they had to like take ideas for 40 episodes and squeeze them 20. And then after the show ended, Nickelodeon was like, "Oh, we're gonna give you more episodes." Like, ding that we just ended the show. Oh, make a new one. That's why I never would want my stuff to be big. The idea that somebody can like, because they really screwed over their story. They wanted to do 2 more seasons, and they're like, "Nah, you only have one more." Then they They squeeze it all into one. You're like, oh, give us more episodes, even though you just ended your show. And then remember what they did to Korra, where like that's the only show I've ever seen get ratings that are so terrible that they pulled it off the air and started putting that new episodes on the computer. Jesus Christ. There was some other show that happened with. I have to think about it though. There's some other show where that same thing happened where it's like they wanted yeah, Transformers Prime. So the one that was on the hub, they wanted to do 4 seasons of that show, and they had ideas for all 4 seasons, and they got to do the first season just the way they wanted to, right? And then when they get to the second one, they find out that it's either that Hasbro is going to do some like new Beast Hunter, whatever. So that means they have to take the ideas they had for season 2, 3, and 4. I got my middle finger sticking, and squeeze them all into one season, and then come up with some new crap for a third season to promote this brand of stuff for Hasbro. What a bunch of douchebags! Like, imagine coming up with a 4 season outline of a show, and then you get to do the first one the way you wanted to, and then they're like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to condense all your stuff into one." What do you mean? What? I just explained it that they wanted to do 4 scenes of that show, and they had this big plot outline for 100+ episodes, and then Hasbro said, "No, we want to do this Beast Hunter thing for season 3." So they had to cram all their ideas for the second, third, and fourth season of that show into season 2, and then they had to come up with something new for season 3. So that means a whole bunch of stuff they want to do all just got shoved into one season, and stuff was barely half explored. That's why I told you these networks are dicks. Like people who say, "Oh, I hope your show gets." It's like I don't want to make something where another person gets to tell me what I can and can't do. You'll do what we tell you to do because you signed a contract and give you a man. Stick it up your behind. I don't care about your money. Why not just give them more seasons? Oh, because American cartoons don't work like that. This isn't Japan where you can run a show for 10 years and nobody notices. If you're not The Simpsons or Family Guy or American Dad, you get maybe a few seasons before you get canceled. You'll find very few, also King of the Hill, but you'll find very few American-made cartoons, especially in like the action genre, that get more than maybe like 2, 3, 4 seasons. Like I can only think of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as like the only example where they actually got to do what they wanted to for the most part and like last for a while. No, like it's literally a customary thing with Transformers where they get 3 seasons at max and then that's it. Like animated was gonna have 5 seasons and the fourth one got canceled for reasons that nobody knows. Um, Same thing with like Armada and Energon, and like all those are basically just one big season each. Like they have a really strange thing about you can only have 3 and then that's it. And they cut their third season in half. They were gonna have a 26 episodes. They said no, 13 and 3 more for a movie. That's it. I mean, we're laughing, but it wasn't funny for them because they had all these ideas they wanted to do and they didn't get it. It's the same thing with Spectacular Spider-Man. That show was going to go for, uh, under the intentions of Greg Weisman, 5 seasons with like TV movies, like little movies that showed stuff after the show ended. He only got 2. And then, Sony's rights were bought by Disney. So now even if they want to make it, they can't make the show anymore. So most of his ideas he just keeps in his head because he is like still hoping for a revival or something like that. But see, that's why I said I would never want to do a show with a network because I've seen and can recall multiple instances of someone making a show and they get to do like a little bit of it and then they're like, nah, and they cut it off. I can think of maybe like 5 or 6 shows where they were allowed to go on for a long time in America, but other than those few examples and exceptions, Dude, imagine how angry you would be if I said, in what was that, 2009, 2000, yeah, like 2009. Um, I want you to come up with 4 seasons of a Transformer show, and then you come up with these 4 seasons with like a group of people, and then the first one you do, it's exactly the way you wrote it, right? You get to the second one, and we start making, it's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make these toys, so you're gonna have to use all those ideas in this one season, and then you have to squeeze all in the one season. And then I'm like, hey, you know what? You're gonna get a third season, but we're gonna cut it in half, and we're gonna give you a movie. Man, these companies are pricks. No, American cartoons always are going to be hurt by networks canceling something every year or every other year. It doesn't even have to be like an action-based show. It can just be anything. Like they'll cancel stuff just at the drop of a hat. Because I remember with Beast Wars, when that was still airing, when that's one of my favorite Transformers cartoons. They were not told about not having another season until, so that show was 3 seasons, right? They didn't find out that they were going to that the third one was going to be the last one until the finale. So they had 3 episodes to wrap up an entire series of over 50. Like these 3 episodes had to wrap up 3 seasons worth of ideas and stories and characters. You know that's a douchebag move to make to somebody, that you have to, your whole show, right? Which 50 isn't like a whole bunch, but it still is quite a bit. You have to wrap up 3 seasons of stories in 3 episodes. So all their plans for season 4, they're gonna be in space, or like, oh, whatever. No, whatever, man. It's just like, it's an example of how these networks and these higher executives, they don't care. And that's why I would never want to work in TV, because they will drive you insane. Oh, that's the same word that one of the I'm sure one of them said when they found it out. Like, imagine having ideas for a 4th season of your show. It's gonna be this big space epic after you finally have wrapped up like the story you had before, which was them stranded on Earth. And then you find out while you're writing the last 3 for the season, oh no, this is the end of it. So you better tie everything up with a little bow in these last 3. That's why I like Japan more, because they don't do this to people. They don't tell you only have 1 year or 2 or 3 to make something. Dude, it was the same thing with Danny Phantom, where like that show went for 2 seasons, and then they got rid of the guy that was like the head writer, Steve Marmel. So like season 3 is like considered by some fans to not be canon, just like with Gargoyles. Um, and then like for the group that was on that show, they wanted to do other stuff for a season 4, and they were going to make toys for it. And then Nickelodeon was like, nah, that's it. So like to this day, we still don't know what season 3 would have looked like if they kept the head writer on, or what season 4 would have looked like if they didn't cancel it for the Last Airbender. Which, that's really ironic. It's like you canceled this show supposedly to put more emphasis on this other show that you want to get rid of after 3 seasons too, and then you backtracked on getting rid of that show all the way when it finally ended to say you wanted more episodes, which led to a sequel show that got worse ratings with each season, so bad that you had to pull it off TV and then put it on the internet for people to watch new episodes. You know that's nuts. Damn, I really do wonder the Last Airbender season 4 would look like. I used to love that show when I was a kid. I remember like when they were. No, I'm not going to get into nostalgia and the rest of that. Even though my show doesn't get that many views, like the last video didn't even get. It was like 60 views for the last one. I still would rather that than having it on TV, and then you have to like start going to church every week trying to pray they don't cancel your thing because it's not pulling enough ratings, or they want to go in a different direction, or if they do renew it, they want you to put another character in. Like literally every time uh, a network gets involved, they always screw it up. They either cancel the show altogether or they have some weird demand. Like, oh my god, Einstein was also wary of technology. Well, I was talking about my computer acting like trash earlier, and like how one of the keys keeps clicking by itself. Now I know why all the cliffhangers. Yeah, and Beast Wars didn't have a cliffhanger. Neither did Prime. But I'm saying that those are two shows where they were supposed to go as intended by the people that worked on them longer than they did. That even though they have a definitive ending, it still is something that was rushed or otherwise earlier than they anticipated. Now I know why all the cliffhangers. Dude, you know a show that has a cliffhanger, Spider-Man Unlimited, where like the show literally ends with like a pile of rubble and smoke, and you're like, what happens? Like, oh, that's the last episode. So you networks ruin everything. They might fund something for a while, but when they start getting sick of you, buckle up because they will toss you out like a piece of garbage. And again, it's funny to us, but I do feel bad for a lot of those people because, and it's weird too, because like I've seen executive producers get involved with stuff before, and like in comics, executives at Marvel get involved, and sometimes they might suggest something that's not that bad. Um, like they tried to stop one of the writers from having some underage girl with one of the characters, but it's like overwhelmingly they'll get rid of you just because it's profitable. Yeah, like I said, I can give all kind of different like examples of executives getting involved with the show, right? They fund it for a while and they give like recommendations and they screw it over. Like one of the things I liked about Dragon Ball is that if Toriyama wanted to, he could have kept it going because of how successful it was when it was in publication. And even though he did have an editor who told him what to do, like with the Cell Saga, I think that editor actually knew what they were talking about because if that wasn't for the editor, we would have just had, as he said, the old man and the clown as the villains for that arc. But with American like executives, they are terrible. They almost ruin everything they touch, at least with regard to television. There's a lot of slimy people working in those industries. But Banana, I want to ask you, how pissed off would you be if you wrote a show for 3 years and you start getting ideas for a fourth year, and then I tell you you have three. I tell you this is gonna be your last season, so you have 3 episodes to wrap up 3 years of stories, of plots. Yeah, Beast Wars was a really fun show. That was one of the first like kids cartoons I can think of where they actually do regularly kill off characters. Like every season, somebody dies. And the funny thing is that that wasn't even something they really wanted to do, but because of technical limitations at the time, they couldn't have like a whole bunch of characters in the show. So I'm just saying that like I think for as many limitations as they had, they still did a decent job of with their story. I'm just saying that like Japan, from what I've seen, are a lot more they're a lot more lenient in terms of what they'll let you do with your own tale. And like I said, what's the point of having more funding for something if you can't do what you want to do? Like if I had somebody funding my show and they're giving me, I don't know, 10,000 a month to make an episode, and then they tell me, "Oh, you can't do this. You can't." It's like, thanks for the shackles, buddy. I really appreciate it. it just doesn't seem like a fair trade because if you make something you really enjoy and you believe in, and then you're not allowed to do it because somebody else decides, you know, I don't see what how that's enjoyable. And you might say, "Oh, it's their job to." It's like, yeah, but it still is someone taking your idea and interfering with it to such an extent that you can't tell the story you want to tell. So I'd quit on the spot and call the executives greedy slime balls. I feel so bad for Spectacular Spider-Man. Like that show has so much acclaim behind it, and they literally can't make it anymore because of stupid copyright issues. 10,000 worth of shackles. Yeah. I hope you liked all those examples. Like I didn't even intend to like mention all those or look those up recently. I just remembered all the different times I liked something and then it ended like abruptly or like kind of quickly or after a few years, and then you find out all the like hell that people were put through behind the scenes. Like with Spider-Man the animated series, they had to introduce Hobgoblin first before Green Goblin because they made a toy for Hobgoblin first, and then they couldn't use the word kill, and then they couldn't have Spider-Man throw a punch at anybody. He always has to use his web. Like there's all kind of little stuff that you when you watch it you don't know, and then afterward, you find out about. But that Transformers Prime thing was crazy. I've never seen a show where they plot out 4 seasons and then like they're told to turn 3 seasons into one. That is insane. Not ideal, but the experience can catapult someone to bigger things. Well, like I said, I would rather never get paid to make my show if it would mean like having to, do what somebody else says. Because again, the whole point of enjoying it is that you get to tell your own story, come up with your own ideas. And when someone else is like dictating what you can or can't do, it's not fun anymore, which defeats the purpose of making it. Hey, you thought you were gonna have your fourth season? Well, we're gonna tell you all the way at the end of the third one that this is the last one. I do feel bad for some of these writers, like because you can really tell with some of these shows who cares and who doesn't, and they'll try so hard to do something, and then some douchebag is like, nah, it's just. It was like I'm gonna go off of here. I went a little bit longer than I intended. Thanks, whatever. Thanks, Gita, even though you show up all the way at the end. Thanks, Banana. I hope my computer finally stops typing by itself. I'm not holding my breath. I really do not want to go and get another one. Um, anyways, have a good day.